Element 126, resin. Res. It was the answer to everything. A transmutable element with the power to unlock the secrets of the universe. It gifted humanity everything there was to know about space-time and how to enslave it. Res triggered an explosion of technological advancement. Mankind spread to the far reaches of the galaxy, growing exponentially in numbers, along with the reliance on Res. The United Terran Alliance was founded to control the countless population. Eventually, they sought to ration the use of Res. As Res supplies thinned, conflict arose. An epidemic of fortune-seeking miners forced their way to the galactic core, where resin was most abundant. Eventually, the primary Res source was discovered. All Res stemmed from a sinister and timeless energy being, a being awakened by the use of Res. They had sprung an ancient and recursive trap, Res being the bait no budding civilization could possibly ignore. Corruption spilled outward into the stars, twisting the biological matrix of all it touched, integrating it into machines. Mankind's own technology, their own dead, had begun to turn against them. For years they struggled to survive against a flood of abominated metal and flesh. Billions were lost to the infection, only further feeding the expanding corruption. In spite of hopeless obliteration, the very fabric of life itself arose to fight the dark entity. As a race, humanity came together for a single purpose. In some twisted way, they had found peace. Peace, however, does not last. People fell back into their self-minded ways. Humanity turned inward in a scramble for the remaining Res, which now could no longer be renewed. As the UTA lost its control over the galaxy, they collapsed the entire Warpgate network beyond any hope of salvage. Human ingenuity, it turns out, knows no captivity. A resin-based drive was developed, allowing more direct travel anywhere in the galaxy. The Void was reborn as a wild, untapped, and lawless frontier. As years pass, piracy and skirmish battles rage. Precious Res the prize. Raw worlds are recklessly colonized and disputed by legions of makeshift starships. An entire ecology of nomadic drifters emerged, endlessly recycling the wrecks of constant war. All the while, the nearly forgotten saviors of the galaxy tirelessly struggle to exterminate the last remnants of the infection.
It seems like, yet again, you dimwits have flown my ship headlong into an infested region. That is the third time this week. 6 million forms of communication, and I'm yet to find one that can articulate how moronic you fools are. Computer, power up the weapons and shield emitters. The doctor is in.
Mega kill. Game over.
By the void. Level 13 is truly the bane of my existence.
Carl, seriously? Do you realize crew members suffocated on the lower decks because you routed power from life support to play stupid video games?
Silence, imbecile! They gave their lives for the greater good. A scientific mind must stay active, or it would wither and wrinkle. I'll boil any ocean. I'll irradiate a whole litter of Narlakian pups. I'll divide by 0 if I have to.
I told you he'd cause trouble if you leave him to his own whim. Those implants can really make a man sick in the melon. Elsa, he is a liability if we keep him on board.
Please refrain from sneaking up on another living creature like that. Do you not realize the horror people have to endure every time they look at your face? You are fortunate I did not inadvertently dismember you in a panic-induced frenzy.
Everyone, shut up! To the bridge, right now. Anyone not here in 30 seconds is getting vented into space. Well, I'm glad to see everyone was able to get up at the crack of noon to work towards sustaining our survival. Let me present to you all the garbage dump we'll be sifting through this afternoon. Yes, most of this is useless junk. Yes, this is utterly pathetic, but what choice do we have?
This ain't no way to treat this here metal mother. The lady deserves better. Let me be snapping on something fresh. He might not be the best candidate to operate the tractor prototype. Keep in mind that Carl built this thing, so it goes without saying that it's dangerous. I'd hate to have come all this way just to have Mackenzie rip us apart like a rabid chimp with Carl's untested toys. You know how those two can be.
I don't really care who does what, but we need to jump on this opportunity to expand the mothership. That cool module will give us some elbow room, while those wings will give us some much-needed firepower. Let's get those modules fitted so we don't have to listen to each other breathe anymore.
Please pay close attention to the moving picture feature film show. You will be subjected to standardized testing following this demonstration.
What exactly do you think you're doing? Stop leaning on that overhead projection like a crutch. This isn't some archaic, top-down space shooter we're playing here. This is real, brutal, kitten-eating life we're talking about. Join the rest of us down here in reality.
Our omnilithium capacitor is now tapped out. I've devised a method while fabricating a new one out of surrounding space dust. Do not ask me how it works, or why it makes sense. All that you need to know is that you will be unable to fire the ship's weapons while the new cell is being installed.
All right, I'm bringing the weapons online. If that is indeed what you want to call this garbage. Let's blast open some of these containers. Maybe we can find something to eat that won't make our hair fall out.
I have decided that it would be best if basic resource towing was left up to the ship's computer. These items are too fragile to be handled by Neanderthals. It brought me great pain to watch you struggle with the tractor beam.
assimilate and perform the following diagnostic tests on the kinetic shield system. Your life and my hull may depend upon it. All modern space-capable engines come equipped with special regenerating boost capacitors. Please practice making rocket go fast now.
I have to say I'm impressed. You're all able to lace this thing back together without eating each other. The only thing that remains is to test the res drive. Mackenzie, start the pre-flight procedure.
From scotch and caviar to beers and tears, how is it that Jameson is the only other one with ambition to dig out of this dung heap? Just cook those bloody engines up and lay in a course for somewhere that isn't here. Please.
Welcome to the Super Ultra Star Map 9000. This holographic interface will allow you to scan all known galactic entities, plot mothership destinations, and communicate with other ships and starbases. Please practice untethered exploration now. Game saved.
Now that we are finally underway, let me remind you that you cannot simply urinate in the corner and proclaim you are the alpha meat husk. You are a minuscule fish in an otherwise colossal ocean of galactic proportions. Unless you wish to be dead before breakfast, read the advisory overlays I have painstakingly programmed for your survival. Do not just click past them and complain on the galactic forums that you did not get the memo. Ignorance will not be excused. Read or die.
Please familiarize yourself with the star map command functions. If you do not assimilate this information now, it will be waiting for you at dinner time.
Apparently your intestines are so long that if you strung them up end to end, you'd probably die. This here metal mother doesn't like to loot the dead. But what need do they got for intestines?
Pillaging successful.
All right, we're mobile. If you are all thoroughly satisfied, we can finally get on with it. We still have stickies out there, not to mention a laundry list of equipment we need before we can do anything about them. Time is of the essence, and we've wasted so much of it already.
As anxious as I am to find a so-called sticky, we have not encountered one for many cycles. The ship does not yet have a nacelle to stand on. Therefore, we need to scout more easy opportunities to exploit.
this here bandit hives work like bees. They send out them worker ships, raiding for supplies. The nectar returns to make the hive mighty. If we go risk getting stung, we can nab some of that honey pot.
Pillaging successful.
While I don't even trust my own office chair these days, let me be the first to admit that we can't survive out here without the help of others. We should consider trading goods and supplies with people, rather than trading insults and bullets. If a hostile confrontation cannot be avoided, then we should consider taking off. We don't have to fight every lemon that looks at us the wrong way.
We should do lunch.
You can never reason with a bandit. In fact, I don't think they even understand a basic language. They pretty much stomp around, raping and pillaging anything that moves. Having one foot in the grave already, most of them are little threat to us. That said, I've heard rumors of colossal bandit ships more times than I can ignore. Trash pile or otherwise, we should respect and acknowledge their potential threat before we look for trouble with these potato-brained psychos.
I'm gonna wear your skin like a suit. Trying to eat your brains!
I try not to start fights I can't win, but everyone makes mistakes. It's not beneath me to use one of those silly failgates if the situation should call for it. Just remember, we're going to have to dump some cargo and leave our strike craft behind if we do so.
Shields offline. Awareness expanded. Cargo acquired.
Okay, I'm calling it. We need to shift our focus back to more pressing needs. Everyone on board is expected to understand that the mothership takes priority over everything, including our very lives. To that effect, Mother needs to be fed. If we can't find what she needs, we die along with her. If we cannot trade for what we need, we'll have to take it by force. As cruel as it is, that's just life.
I see fit to enlighten everyone that every action on board consumes something. Don't let these critical supplies run dry. I've gone to the effort of labeling all viable extraction points, as well as indicating when they are ready for harvest. I have also color-coded human selfishness, so you are aware if any other faction claims ownership of these areas. Though I am completely disgusted by the idea of cooperating with others in a fashion that implies intellectual equality, it often cannot be avoided. Just try not to get extorted too severely. Though I am completely...
In an effort to curb interplanetary diseases, just about all our traded goods now have to go through this hands-off filtered interface. Nobody can stab you in the back or shoot you in the face using an interface like this. Just configure the deal, and the autoloaders should take care of the rest. In an effort to curb interplanetary diseases, just about all our traded goods now have to go through this hands-off.
While the tractor beam is an effective emergency repair tool, you seem more interested in using it to fling trash about the void for no apparent reason. As long as we are in an assembly-safe area, free of any ships and stellar objects, we can program the ship's computer to reconfigure itself. Just click, close your eyes, go to sleep, and all the hard work will appear to complete itself.
Humans intended to be solitary in nature. That's why you have two kidneys, huh? We should break up the Metal Mother nice and neighborly so we only have to pay for interweave hookup at one time.
As much as I detest this hellborn excrement, we're stuck in a universe addicted to res. We are no different. Without it, the res drive will collapse, leaving us to limp along at subwarp. We'll be easy pickings for bandits, or anyone else looking to kick us while we're down.
Awareness expanded. Signal detected.
If we tune our warp frequency just right, we can sometimes pick up residual data transmissions bouncing around the old warp network. Though the gates are smashed beyond repair, some seem to be able to hang on to those low-density data packets like a ghostly reminder of our past.
Once Earth's neon green oceans burned brighter than the visible sun, humanity collectively decided it was time to find a new home. Pushing the very limits of science, mankind molested the fabric of space-time to create artificial wormholes. These wormholes allowed the transportation of matter across huge distances, though required a reliable exit connection. An automated starship was sent to the nearest neighboring star, Alpha Centauri, to construct one such connection. Following the 250-year journey, the first warp gate was established, and humanity quickly fled the rotting Earth to the new off-world colony. Scanning area.
Finding good, fresh, refined alloys isn't easy. Everyone wants them, but nobody's making them. Even if we don't immediately require scrap, it's good to keep some around for trade.
Map updated. Signal detected. Extracted. When humanity began colonization of the cosmos, a central government feebly attempted to maintain order across the countless worlds. As expansion continued, central government was unable to enforce any laws. Interplanetary diseases ran amok. Worlds became savage as they realized they lived in a lawless state. Nearby worlds began raiding each other for resources without any fear of legal recourse. The United Terran Alliance was founded to bring the dissident worlds into the fold and halt the interplanetary pandemics. Where a democratic government failed, a military one would succeed it. The first stage was isolation. The warp gates were temporarily shut down and encoded with access keys only the UTA controlled. This kept worlds from attacking each other, while the UTA systematically set up individual government cells on each world.
Behold, my happy place. It is here my power grows. Using the data we have acquired from the sensors, I can refine our ships and equipment. While I would adore being able to refine every single archaic piece of junk on board, the physical nature of the universe forbids it. Treat the data analytics with respect. There is research data that has not yet been allocated. Consider not allocating it and instead allocate it. I sense some underdeveloped crewmen require contextualization about how urgently we require these basic resources. More specifically, human resources. The ship requires an astronomical volume of periodic maintenance and repair. These tasks are far too dangerous to allow anyone with a shred of intellectual value to perform them. Therefore, we do not turn away many applicants. Remember, the bottom of the pyramid needs the most bricks.
Of course, we need bodies to operate and maintain the ship's systems, but we also don't want to feed any more mouths than we must. Most of our food is fabricated from res. Balance is the word of the day here.
Now that we have some currency to spend, we should stock up on strike craft. We do not want to get overwhelmed when engaged by multiple targets. Plus, it gives our enemies something else to shoot at instead of us.
Area exhausted.
We wouldn't be a very respectable mothership without some sort of support fleet. I would advise we keep our hangars fully stocked with strike craft at all times. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a healthy menu of ships to choose from at the moment, but that will certainly change in time. Every enemy strike craft we destroy presents an opportunity to salvage blueprints for new ships. Plus, it'll give Carl something to do instead of pissing me off to no end.
Oh, for Gamma's sake. Why did we drop out of warp? Carl, what is wrong with my ship?
Nothing is wrong with the ship, Elsa. I've scheduled a combat drill for today. We're getting a little too soft for my liking.
Jameson, it's 3 in the morning.
All of the ship's command and control systems are routed through a wireless-assisted simulation. A benefit of such a system is you do not have to be physically on a ship to fly it. You can astral project your command focus to another ship, while delegating the control of the mothership to artificial intelligence. While it would make almost too much sense to allow the artificial intelligence to fly every ship, that theoretically would take all the fun out of it.
Relay point designated. Disengaging. Priority asset designated. Engaging.
All right, that's not bad. Not great, but not bad. Let's try something a bit bigger.
Engaging.
We have sufficiently asserted ourselves over this inanimate material. Surely we must be done with these mindless examinations of competence by now.
Carl, you couldn't fight your way out of a wet paper bag. These drills just might save your life someday. You'd be wise to put this inanimate material to use before trying your luck on something that can shoot back.
Target locked. Oblivion.
Now that we have strike craft of our own, we should learn how to fight against them. It's a big galaxy, and we're not original thinkers here. We should be able to locate a border raid to have our way with. They should be no match for the combined force of our mothership and strike craft.
Game saved. Awareness expanded. Scanning area. Awareness expanded. Elsa was born and raised on Earth, which happened to be one of the last worlds to come under UTA control during the lockdown wars. Her and her father were recruited by the UTA to mine the Sol system for what little res it had. When her father died, she became aimless and resentful. Eventually, she was befriended by Don Gibson, the leader of the growing UTA resistance. Saving her from eventual starvation, she was fiercely loyal to Dawn and became second in command of the renegade fleet. Despite her troubled past, she had always managed to stay lighthearted and governed by strong morals. She was devastated to discover Dawn had been under the influence by the infection. Enraged, she took control of the clockwork and crew to hunt down Dawn and destroy the Dark Entity. Having eventually satisfied that goal, she has now grown cold and nearly unrecognizable by her fellow crewmates. Extracted. It is impossible to say for sure where the Dark Entity came from. Some believe it existed before time itself. Others believe it is responsible for maintaining the precarious cosmological constant through its will alone. Regardless, it is now known that the resource res stems entirely from this creature. While the entity cannot normally be physically observed, it does have direct effect on the universe around it, flooding space with res. The function of res serves to attract technologically advanced species toward the creature, where they can then be corrupted. Map updated.
What can I help you with? Welcome to my quiet place.
My hands feel like two balloons.
Do you know what the definition of insanity is? Well, it is not doing the same thing over and over expecting a different result. I checked the dictionary. However, that is literally the definition of practice. We have all practiced this over and over. Now let's drop those training wheels and execute.
Practice is irrelevant. The command and control system is smarter than the sum of all brain matter on board. Simply change the pre-configured weapon configuration to my experimental battle wagon mode. The ship's weapon systems will track and fire independently, unfettered by human ineptitude.
Engaging. Battle wagon mode.
All right, we've graduated from inanimate material to ships a tenth of our size. It's a baby step, but I'll take what I can get from this bunch.
Are we done burning bugs with a magnifying glass? Good. Okay, let's carry on. Second star to the aft.
It is absolute murder to me when we have unused analytical data like this. Unless you wish to fall asleep one night and never wake up, you'll make haste and allocate this data at once.
Alert! Super ultra hot bunking detected. There is too much meat aboard. Consider selling human lives in exchange for something of value.
Now that we have achieved a base level of technological excellence, I see no reason to tow around this useless garbage. Trade, steal, kill, rinse, repeat. If I have to look at this eyesore much longer, I will gouge your eyes out.
Game saved. Added to cargo hold.
We may have a galaxy-wide shortage of res, but we certainly don't have a shortage of poor saps combing the void looking for more. All the potent res fields have been catalogued, yet every so often someone finds an oasis of the stuff. It's not exactly legal to be harvesting it without the proper drilling equipment, but who's enforcing that? Exactly. We might as well drop in and take our pound of flesh too.
Engaging. Relay point designated. Disengaging. Target locked. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Battle wagon locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. 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 Target locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. offline. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Target locked. Engaging. Relay designated. Position holding. Target locked. Obliterating. Area exhausted. Alert! Super ultra hot bunking detected.
Oh yeah! Back by popular demand, more scheduled combat drills. Now that we have some decent weapons, let's cut our teeth on a live fire exercise. As in, we'll be shooting at living things. Now before you get your long johns in a bunch, listen. We're simply gonna rub out a few bandits.
I could have sworn I was captain of this ship yesterday. This has got to be the last examination. You do
If there is one thing I've learned about people, is that they have infinite ambition to do as little as possible. Your brain might be a muscle, but so is your trigger finger. If you don't practice, your trigger finger might...
What? Okay, whatever. Let's just get this over with. I don't like to...
Game saved.
Trying to eat your brains.
You gonna eat that?
Battle wagon mode activated.
Okay, point, shoot, kill. And don't look down the business end of the boomstick. You got that? If you don't, I'll get you...
Okay, we've blown something up. Jameson, did you get your fix? Don't even answer that. And don't give us any homework assignments either. Let's just pack it up.
Look at all this here stuff all tossed about the void like toilet paper in the wind. As much as I want to stuff the metal mother full of treasure, the space inside is always smaller than the shell outside. Go figure.
I think I changed my mind. This one's filthy.
Game saved.
If you wish to succeed in this universe, we need more data. My body needs it. Kill to get it if you must. Bring me the data, and I will give you power beyond your wildest dreams.
Game saved. The The Frame 9000 Integrated Self-Aware Hyper-Intelligent Operating System, ME, is a specialized back-end designed exclusively for busy space pirates on the go. While the standard weapon and defensive subsystems remain mostly unchanged from last iteration, I now have dedicated ports for both a cappuccino machine and elderly assistance railings for escalators. My onboard power supply uses 1.21 gigawatts less energy, resulting in an 80% drop in combustion-related incidents. Resource acquired. Signal detected. Added to cargo hold. Awareness expanded. Scanning area. Extracted. While Don Gibson was born on Earth, he spent the majority of his youth as a slave laborer on the moons of Uranus. Later in life, he was picked up by the UTA and conscripted as a soldier during the early lockdown wars. Following years of UTA service, Don eventually lost the willingness to obey orders. He resigned from the UTA to take up freelance mining work. As the UTA continued to inhibit free mining of res, he turned to smuggling contraband to survive. Obsession with the entity drove him to build the Clockwork ship, in hopes of being reunited with the entity. Don ceaselessly worked on the ship for nearly 200 years, untouched by the effects of age. He owed his perpetual youth to the dark corruption that had poisoned his body and mind. He embraced a life of solitude to conceal his affliction from others, until he undeniably needed help to complete the Clockwork. With the promise of untold wealth at the legendary galactic core, Don built a crew of struggling and hopeful prospectors. Elsa, Carl, and every other res-struck crew member remained blissfully unaware of his real agenda. It wasn't until the Clockwork finally reached the core worlds did his true nature manifest itself to the crew. Don was eventually killed by Elsa Young, along with the dark entity that corrupted him. Area exhausted. Map updated. Signal detected. Res, or resin, is slang for element 126, which was discovered during the colonization of the Alpha Centauri system. It phases in and out of the space-time continuum, making it difficult to detect. Its discovery accounted for the missing gravitational forces we previously dismissed as dark matter. Res tends to drift through solid matter, randomly coming into phase and adhering to corporeal particles. It's only during this state modern technology can observe its effects. Resource acquired. Awareness expanded. Added to cargo hold.
Salutations!
Scanning area.
I have already willingly and graciously volunteered to do all the real work aboard this ship. All that is required from you is to simply select a button and press it. Just do not press it too hard.
Map updated. Resource acquired. Area exhausted. Scanning area. Very little is known about the political or behavioral inner workings of the Bandit faction. They survive solely on the theft of other ships, building their infrastructure on scrap and stolen goods. Their spoils are often hoarded at bandit bases in an attempt to entice unwise travelers. While bandits lack the expertise to develop any legitimate army, their relentless and suicidal nature make them a terror of the void. While most simply avoid them at all costs, a lone bandit poses little threat. Their substandard ships make them ideal targets for rookie captains in training.
Nice space! Only I can hear you scream.
For over 30 years, Jameson has served as high-level commander of the UTA. He fought in over 200 engagements during the lockdown wars, 3 of which were successful. Jameson earned a great deal of recognition after tracking the renegade Don Gibson during the breach incident. Jameson single-handedly thwarted the infectious outbreak following the breach, later earning him a Galactic Medal of Amazing. He is a prime example of a perfect human. Bandwagon mode activated. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Disengaging. Shields offline. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. As the UTA fleet arrived at each world, they set up restricted trade access to control the consumption of the precious resource res. It took centuries to establish a planetary infrastructure on each world, leaving some isolated for years on end. As the UTA arrived at these later worlds, they were met with hostility and resentment. Each world they encountered grew more hostile than the last. A galactic resistance force fought against UTA control, destroying ships and hacking warp gates. Seeing the outer worlds as undesirable and res deficient, the UTA simply put minimal effort into controlling them. Segregated from the core worlds, the pandemics successful. Dragon mode activated. Target locked. Obliterating.
Somehow, for some void-forsaken reason, the galaxy isn't quite violent enough for some people. That's why we have simulation arenas. They kind of work like a mind-rotting video game.
Game saved. detected. Awareness expanded. Signal detected. Without the warp gates, interstellar travel was not possible. Along with the discovery of new habitable worlds, several new elements were added to the periodic table. One of these was element 126, the element now known as Res. As warp gate travel became commonplace, a massive number of gate builder ships were deployed. Over a millennium, a galactic warp gate network was established, and gate travel was an everyday occurrence. Map updated. Awareness expanded. Extracted. Thanks to the Warp Gate network, nearly every corner of the galaxy has been tapped, mined, and left for spoil. Just as humanity had once done on their homeworld, the consumption of Res grew beyond its rate of renewal. This forced space colonization to the galaxy core, where heavier elements like Res were more common. This intermix between worlds created starborn pandemics, compelling people to consume even more Res to escape the contaminated worlds. Somewhere between the pandemics and the frenzy for Res, the United Terran Alliance sought to cease the chaos by inhibiting warp gate travel. The period that followed became known as the Lockdown Wars. Scanning area. Area exhausted. Signal detected. The Clockwork was a massive mothership, originally conceived by Don Gibson to defy the Lockdown Wars. It served as home for thousands of desperate people, as it made its long journey to the galactic core. When Don eventually betrayed the crew to the Dark Entity, Don, the Entity, and the Clockwork itself became fused into a single mass. The surviving crew spent nearly 5 years rebuilding a new Clockwork, which was later used to destroy the original ship harboring the Dark Entity. The Clockwork, too, was unfortunately short-lived. Shortly after the collapse of the Gate Network, the UTA confiscated the ship, seeing it as theirs, given it was constructed mostly of UTA wreck. Map updated. Furnace expanded. Extracted. Scanning area. Following the dark infection, a few scientists established a group dedicated to the investigation of the dark entity. They reached out to the best and brightest survivors the Void had to offer. Unfortunately, they were plagued by constant bandit attacks until map updated. After the warp gate collapse, many scientific minds stepped forward to resolve the galactic transportation crisis. While the res drive became the primary method for travel, a second warp gate network was also under heavy construction. These new warp gates were smaller and more efficient, being derived from the alien technology discovered at the galaxy core. Trillions of these new warp gates were deployed using a gateless warp slipstream device, scattering them randomly across the galaxy. It wasn't until the network was nearly completed did their critical flaw become apparent. The quantum-entangled compounds of the new gates began to interfere with each other, even across the span of light years. The more gates, the more the problem compounded itself. This interference caused the warp jumps to exit randomly within a short distance of the gate's location.
While you were sleeping, I connected the data analyzer system to your cerebral cortex. If you select the incorrect button, your brain functions will cease and you will die. No pressure.
Added to cargo hold. Resource acquired. Game saved.
Hey, space! Only
How
I can
did
hear
I
you
get
scream.
here?
Battle wagon mode activated. Target locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterated.
Only I can breathe.
Shields offline.
I think I changed my mind. This one's filthy.
Cargo acquired. Cargo acquired. Game saved. Added to cargo hold. Area exhausted.
Go ahead, run. And only if Mike or I want to chase you.
Battle wagon mode activated. Target locked. Obliterating. Why use your hands? That is like a baby's toy. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Imaging successful. Game saved.
Go ahead, run. Hey, thanks. Some more fun to chase you.
Battle wagon mode activated. Engaging. Position holding. Game saved. Cargo acquired.
You gonna eat that?
Game saved. Extracted.
Trying to want to eat your brains.
Battle wagon mode activated. Area exhausted. Pillaging successful. Game saved.
I'm gonna drink the marrow from your bones.
Extracted.
I'm in space. Only I can hear you scream.
Battle wagon mode activated.
In the not-so-distant future, when the ship is exploding and the flesh is melting off your skeleton, I want you to remember the terrible, terrible choice you made here today.
Quite pleased everyone was able to pull it together during these rough times and get their respective jobs done. Hold steady, folks. We're starting to shape up real solid.
Solidification would not be necessary if you simply disallowed this depth-impaired abomination to dismantle my beautiful clockwork. We are in an infantile state now by comparison. This has been years wasted. I expect to be compensated for my time.
I'm sure that compensation can be arranged. Do you have change for a dime? What exactly is wrong with your chrome anyway? You didn't seriously think we were gonna let you keep a ship built entirely out of UTA property, did you? Surely you're intelligent enough to come to this deduction on your own.
By the void. This again. The next person to bring up the clockwork is getting keelhauled. I'm so tired of hearing it. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't you all grind me up for my one lapse in judgment. It's warp under the bridge. What's done is done. Get over it. Or get a helmet.
Perhaps if you exerted a more strict sense of discipline amongst your subordinates, you wouldn't have such a hard time keeping everyone in line. The Alliance didn't tolerate such insubordinate behavior, especially from the science staff.
Oh, you mean the same UTA that wiped out half the galaxy? The same UTA that kept everyone under their thumb for a millennia? The UTA is dead, died, killed, toast. They choked themselves with greed and the universe itself was thankful for it. The only reason we are still alive is because I made it so. Don't you ever tell me how to run my ship again.
We may be able to hobble around the cosmos like a lame animal, but our thalamus is still far too smooth. I suggest we locate a capital star base in order to expand our regional awareness. From there, my seemingly magical skills can penetrate their computer core. If there is anything on the weeb about the infection, I will find it. The data will be mine.
Make it do right.
Game saved. Game saved. Signal detected. Added to cargo hold. Awareness expanded.
Why, thank you.
Battle wagon mode activated. Go get yourself a coffee. I got this. Saved. The Sun Hunters originally began as a nomadic bounty hunters guild during the Dark Infection. When the warp gates fell, so did the feasibility of tracking targets across the galaxy for credits. They slowly congregated together in a small corner of the galaxy to form the Sun Hunters. In hopes of warding off attacks from other factions, they maintained the fierce imagery of their predecessors' ships and starbases.
Keep in mind that the more we push the res drive, the more res we toss out the window. Maybe ease up a little bit. It would be wise if we left some gas in the tank for when we really need to...
Scanning area.
Now that we're making a name for ourselves, for a second time, we should be mindful of our reputation. Everyone is on a razor's edge out here, and bad rumors can spread faster than the infection itself.
after the discovery of an ancient alien warp gate. It was theorized that the dark entity had previously cleansed the galaxy of all life, reseeding it afterward for later consumption. This process may also have been a reoccurring cycle to which the creation of all life originated. While the builders of the ancient gate were long extinct, humanity was successful in refurbishing it. It led to a twisted dimension where the dark entity's physical body resided. With the location of its corporal form now accessible, it succumbed to a flurry of bullets and bombs, not unlike the life forms humanity was previously familiar with.
At long last, we have finally arrived. The scanning may commence. Let me get my magnetic-altering dingle arm connected to the perforated relay lattes. Wait for it. Wait. And we should be able to hack into their database now.
Uploading to database. Injecting worm. Searching for keyword infection. Licking, licking, licking. Tastes bad. 101 matches found. Narrowing. Narrowing. Analyzing. This thing on my neck is about to rupture. Next. If you cook it long enough, it might be safe. Next. This is what you get for opening every piece of email. Next. Anomalous spaceborne biological replication found at the following coordinates.
There, that one. That sounds like a sticky. Let's plot it in and get over there.
Look, Elsa, I'm not trying to step on your toes here, but this is a pretty weak lead. We haven't seen any infected in over 2 years now. There's nothing out there. We beat this thing.
It's my responsibility to make sure. A clean sweep is the only way, and that takes time. I've patiently humored you while you polished your pistol, but it's time to follow my orders for once. If you don't like it, you can let yourself out at the next rock.
I hope we find something positively juicy. Analyzing these typical corporeal life forms bores me to a coma. I think I'm going to sterilize my scalpels and rectal speculars.
Game saved.
I'm gonna paint the ship's hull with your blood.
Map updated.
It should be noted that all wings, noses, and engine modules have onboard weapon systems. Lasers tend to nullify shields. Projectiles excel at displacing armor, while explosives can shred a ship's hull apart. Now, of course, these are not rules written in carbonite. The void is full of exotic weaponry for us to play with. It would be wise to familiarize yourself with these weapons, as well as what sort of damage output they specialize in.
Awareness expanded. Signal detected.
Behold, the power of science. It is only a matter of time before I can computerize the entire crew, invalidating the need for pointless chatter such as this.
Resource acquired. Scanning area. The Moonburger franchise was founded in the year 2899. Originally, Moonburger used actual cow mass. Moonburger switched away from using disgusting animal tissue to nano-printed particle meal shortly after the Great Bovine Culling, using a special blend of radiation and spices. An authentic tasting meat brick is used in all. Signal detected. Awareness expanded.
Mother Nature is a cruel and merciless meat grinder, and the infinite void does not differ. Unless you want someone drinking their Hefeweizen out of your... In theory, you can bend wavelengths of light to create an effective cloaking field. This theory is utterly moronic. In practice, I have devised a method to instead bend darkness. How can I be the only one that has come to this determination?
Several mining outposts were abandoned by the UTA during the Dark Infection. Without adequate protection, many bases were raided and destroyed, while others learned to defend themselves. Scanning area. Map updated. Signal detected. Map updated. The breach incident occurred when the first Titan Gate was successfully bypassed by an unregistered traveler, ending the lockdown wars. Though no infected vessels were ever able to escape through the breach, it was widely publicized as the cause of the infection itself. Unbeknownst to the general public at the time, the infection had ravaged the core worlds for centuries beforehand. The breach became a UTA scapegoat to cover up years of concealed conflict. Signal detected. The Titan Gates were created late during the lockdown wars. Their intended function was to further segregate the inner and outer worlds as an unbreakable gate. Instead of using an encrypted key code, Titan Gates had absolutely no power source, requiring it to be spooled up manually by an energy beam transfer. The beam itself was encoded to ensure that even if one was to amass the astronomical power needed, it would still... Awareness expanded. Dr. Carl Memford has had a long and colorful history of mental instability, despite having an uncanny level of intelligence. Though he is physically harmless, he has worked on several controversial UTA projects, including the now discontinued lockdown vaccination for children. After a short time on the run, he discovered Don Gibson and the massive clockwork ship he was building. Appalled by obvious design flaws, he offered his services as head engineer. Though the rest of the crew is perpetually annoyed by his horrific manner, he proved to be indispensable in helping reach... Extracted. Wagon mode activated. Engaging. Game saved. Scanning area. Jameson is the prime dictionary definition example of everything wrong with humanity. He may even be the worst living thing to congeal into a physical body. His intelligence rivals that of a tapeworm. It is a scientific miracle he even has the brain capacity to stand erect, let alone form a complete or even partial sentence. His hygiene is questionable. His mother has ugly shoes. Jameson is a poo-poo face jerk. Alert! 100 and... Battle wagon mode activated. Priority asset designated. Disengaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Target locked. Obliterating. Relay point designated. Position holding. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Engaging. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Obliterating. Engaging. Engaging. Target locked. Obliterating. Carl is out sick today. This unit will now distribute the quota of condescending and hurtful remarks. Your mother's mass is greater or equal to the average mass of a red giant. Ha, ha, ha. Map updated. Countless efforts have been made to ascertain the surname of Mackenzie, as well as his mysterious mental affliction. Due to his limited ability to articulate himself, most of the crew consider him to be the ship's pet, rather than a human being. He often causes mischief, eating and drinking just about anything not bolted to the hull. Despite his antics, he obsesses over the mothership's operation. Scanning area.
Well, this is awkward. To the void with you then.
Battle wagon mode activated. Engaging. Disengaging. Saved. Cargo acquired. Game saved.
Carl, stop messing around with the archives. Seriously, I'm going to snap that bloody neck of yours like a wafer if I see your hand.
I decided to let a chimp from the lab select the last few data allocations instead of you. We have reached the scientific limit of banana peeling and fecal bombardment technology. We shall now resume normal allocation procedure.
Awareness expanded. Signal detected. Battle wagon mode activated.
By the endless void in a chicken basket! Look how the infection has replicated itself on inanimate material like that. I am going to
Carl, I'm going to rip your tin.
What kind of buffoon do you take me for? These samples are totally dormant, even with all this nearby transport traffic. As much as I despise concurring with Admiral Patches, he does have a point. The Dark Puppeteer has been long since destroyed.
Fuck me right in the aft. I am so sick and tired of being chronically correct. Carl, weapons, now!
1, 2, 3, 4.
Not even an idiot would put that password on his luggage. Thankfully, Carl, you are a rare breed of idiot. Elsa, we are weapons free. Transferring power.
I want everything within a parsec of here to be rendered to dust. Destroy anything that moves. Use the ship itself if you have to.